earlier this week, this committee, in a bipartisan manner, passed the Older Americans Act, which provides critical nutrition, legal, and transportation services for older Americans, which comes obviously at a time when we're experiencing a shift in our national age demographics as more and more baby boomers are retiring, which brings me to think about the future of work and the number of dynamics that we must evaluate as we, especially in terms of worker protections. In my home state of Nevada, we have known industries, well-known industries that drive our economy, and as every industry is unique, there are always cases that affirm the need for robust worker protections and an overseer of equity in our workplace, which is, as an example, we have Deborah Jeffries, who has been a cocktail server at Bally's Las Vegas Hotel and Casino, benefiting from a union contract through Culinary Union 226. She's been able to work no matter her age, which has been an important factor for many companies within the industry who consider it when they're hiring. And as an example, another local casino was just sold, and its cocktail servers were all terminated and not rehired because of their age. Deborah obtains her same pay as her male counterparts and has seniority and pay, and will eventually retire with security and dignity. Chair Dillon, as you said earlier, age discrimination charges are about 20% of the charges EEOC receives. Earlier this year, as the chair Bonamici talked about, we passed a bipartisan, again, PAWADA, the Protecting Older Workers Against Discrimination Act. Have you reviewed PAWADA, and in your view, will this legislation strengthen EEOC's ability to enforce age discrimination in the Work Employment Act?
Well, thank you, Congressman Lee, for your question. As I did testify earlier, charges related to age discrimination claims are a substantial part of the EEOC's charge inventory. Indeed,
yes or no? Will it?
I can't comment on a particular piece of legislation. What I can say is that myself, my fellow commissioners, indeed the entire commission is motivated and devoted to pursuing these kinds of claims. And if there's additional legislation that is passed, we are committed to enforcing that laws as well.
Okay. Would you mind providing EEOC's views in writing with respect to that for the committee?
We can certainly provide technical assistance to the committee.
Thank you. As Ranking Member Comer just talked about, in 2008, you had 1,968 FTEs. You reduced your backlog by 19.5%, which is incredible. What's even more surprising is, according to a report from Politico yesterday, you were able, you had on average 758 investigators in 2018, which was down from 825 that EEOC had on average during the Obama administration. How, with these limited resources, you spoke about more attention given at intake, were there any other factors that led to this reduction, and how were you able to achieve that?
Well, Congresswoman, I saw that Politico piece as well. I actually reviewed some data, and I don't completely agree with the figures that Politico cited. We currently have 765 investigators. We added investigators on staff during fiscal year 2019, and also added investigators on staff in 2018. But in addition to the intake process, I think that as the inventory the backlog has been managed and down so that we now have a workable inventory, what that allows our investigators and our attorneys to do is to tackle the charges when they are new. And it's easier to do because memories are clearer, the evidence is more readily available, and so you can move charges through the process more effectively and more efficiently because the events are still fresh in people's minds. So I think that Part of our ability to effectively manage our inventory now is a function of the fact that the backlog has been reduced, and that's due to a tremendous amount of hard work by all of the employees of the EEOC, and I really think that they should be commended for their work.
Thank you. Madam Chair, before I end, I just would like to submit into the record letters from the Washington Lawyers Committee sharing workers' experience that detail women of color and workers with disabilities cases being dismissed or being given the right to sue letters in such little time that it's hard to imagine that these claims could have been investigated. It may be because of your intake procedure, but I'd like to enter those into the record.